by Capital One. I'm Lula Dualeh, the Director of Audience Development for Black Enterprise. Finding Joy is our joint video series focused on Black influence in the workplace. Finding Joy, hosted by Capital One, is a video series focusing on finding joy in the workplace. Episodes will feature Capital One associates who will highlight their personal and professional experiences, stories of finding joy in communities, mentorship, culture, and their identities in the workplace. Today's episode is all about finding joy in the culture of belonging. We're joined by Bilal Clarence, Capital One's Vice President of Data Engineering, who'll talk about how Capital One's culture and community has supported him during his career journey. Welcome, Bilal, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Lula. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited.
Listen, let's just jump right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what is your role at Capital One?
Absolutely. I'm based out of the Bay Area, and I work out of the San Francisco office in Capital One. And I sit within a sort of central enterprise function called enterprise data. It sits within a line of business referred to as enterprise data and machine learning. Within enterprise data, my team is focused on four functions. The first is data privacy and data ethics. So anything related to privacy laws and the privacy rights we afford our customers. My team has the entire stack in terms of being able to apply the ability to fulfill any of those requests in accordance with obviously law. And data ethics is a bit of we at Capital One, what do we feel like is the bar for us as well? So we sometimes want to go beyond what's just required, right? Secondly, it's data sharing. It's the inbound and outbound data sharing with financial institutions that we integrate with. So imagine you have our app and you want to integrate your account information with a MIT or other service. That's through my team. And then we also do the governance of these sorts of data sharing integrations inbound and outbound to Capital One across the enterprise to ensure that we're doing the right thing by our customers and the company. Thirdly, it's really when you think about sort of the life cycle of data from inception to and creation to all the way through to sort of destruction or archiving of data and everything in between. We serve as a function to create insights, controls in accordance to our policy, et cetera, as it relates to being well managed with our data and well governed. And so those insights, we empower our data owners to really ensure that they have an adequate or ideal data governance posture in terms of our data.
Wow, that sounds super interesting and exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey both inside and outside of Capital One? Maybe just talking about your journey to Capital One and how that has shared your experiences outside of the company, or even what experiences outside of Capital One that has shaped you into the kind of professional and leader you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think specifically around the topic today, my journey is interesting, and it's one that I personally view as a bit unorthodox in the tech industry. At least as an engineer, I view myself as an engineer at heart. I started my journey in college, which was an interesting situation for me because I born and raised in Europe. I came here on a basketball scholarship. And knew I wanted my degree, needed my degree, but had no idea sort of what that was going to look like. And so my primary goal, quite honestly, was to play basketball, was to hoop, and got to live out that experience, which was amazing. But I had to sort of find my journey through college to figure out what my degree was going to be in, and it ended up being computer science related. But through that, it was sort of getting into that field was interesting for me because one, what might have been perceived as sort of the stereotypical jock. I'm certainly one, if not the only person of color outside of maybe some of the transfer students from India, et cetera, in the computer science classes that I was in. And so imposter syndrome was real. You know, it early on just became a big driving force for me to try to excel, to validate to myself that I belonged. And so that was the catalyst of my career. I was fortunate enough to go overseas and play basketball when I graduated. And so lived out that life, but was very conscious of, you know, at some point that ball's going to stop bouncing. And so what does that plan look like? I felt like I had found the second passion in my life, which was coding. And so I took it upon myself with the abundance of downtime you have playing basketball to really educate myself on, you know, what's the industry like? What are the skill sets I need to build upon? During the off season, would take jobs here and there to kind of fill in my resume. Finally, decided to get married with my college sweetheart, and we moved to California. And that's where I got my first job. And so from then on, it was sort of startups here and there, and just really immersing myself in technology, learning a bunch of different things. The startup world was great for me because I wore a lot of different hats, which also sort of introduced me to leadership early on, leading teams offshore, driving change within a startup, you know, for what I saw, and I think what was recognized for the better in certain situations, at least. And then finally, after spending time at a couple different startups, I settled in my career at Apple. And at Apple, I got an opportunity to work at, I think, what's just incredible sort of challenges in terms of scale, unlike maybe most places, if not all places in the industry, at least very unique in terms of what Apple is about. And then grew early on into management. And that's where my management career sort of took off. And I think what was true through all of that was I always saw myself as somebody who eventually would sort of gravitate toward leadership, and that's what I want to do. Even as a basketball player, I captained several teams. It came very sort of natural to me to step in a leadership role. I wanted that responsibility. I loved the idea of sort of passing on to sort of younger players, and while not a point guard, still being a bit of an extension of the coach on the floor. And so what I wanted to do was to make sure, again, imposter syndrome to some degree, once I got to that position, I wanted to feel like I belonged, like I was now a solid engineer, could transition smoothly and hold my own, leading other engineers and maybe even investing in their growth and development as well. Apple was interesting, had certain challenges, et cetera, but I was looking for some new challenging challenges. And in my sort of scour of new challenges, which was both internal to Apple, but certainly in the Bay Area. I'm based out of the Bay Area, by the way. Some friends introduced me to folks here at Capital One. I jumped on an initial call with a VP out of the San Francisco office, and he sold me on this, what I would think is incredible story. Initially, I was like, a good buddy of mine that referred me. I'm looking for a place, an enterprise place where I could really sort of enjoy an engineering culture. And he's like, yeah, just come over here, hear us out. And that's exactly what they sold me. The VP, he basically talked through, the journey Capital One had been on at the tail end of sort of this digital transformation. And now thinking about like, what does the data transformation look like for Capital One? And so I was intrigued, got through the Power Day. That Power Day was a reinforcement of what I heard both from my friend and the VP, like, they echoed the same thing. We are a tech company that happens to be in the financial industry. And so I just got more and more interested. And then I was lucky enough to jump on a few calls with key senior executive leaders here at Capital One. And what really stood out to me there was the echoing of the importance of investing in people and leaders. And so I felt not only that, here's a culture where they're really trying to do something special in the tech industry, not just the banking industry. And on top of that, there's such a focus on investing in people. And that wasn't anything that I had seen in my career. So that's really what brought me here to Capital One.
Wow. I mean, I know everybody who's watching right now is going to be super inspired by your story. I know I am, especially as a daughter of immigrants, but how have you been able to stay true to your values and show up as a leader at Capital One?
Yeah, I think, that's a great question. And I think, what really got me here to Capital One was the notion of, I was sold on the notion that we have these core values at Capital One, and it's not just lip service. Mm. And it wasn't like, I think it was 2 months into my stay at Capital One, and the key leader within my organization, Diane Lai at the time, she had all her Director Plus come in for an offsite, and it was just like, we're just going to talk culture here, which to me was different in that, like, not only are we going to talk about this, we need to action on it, and we need to put a plan together. And coming in, it was like, oh, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to get all over this because I get to sort of come in and be representative of my team, which was one of my core focuses. Like, I want them to know that I'm going to be engaged. I want them to be supported, et cetera. And so jumped on top of that. And so it was just apparent to me early on that these sorts of initiatives are not checkboxes. They're here because we actually care about what our culture looks like, how we engage with each other. And that's what I'm all about. And so I think it was just an early catalyst to facilitate who I am, and maybe even to some extent leave an imprint of my core values here at Capital One, and have leaned into that ever since.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, I know that we can't do the work that we do, especially in your role as a VP, without support. Can you talk a little bit about what support you have received in helping you with your own personal journey and also your professional journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's such a concerted effort to ensure that associates here at Capital One are supported, and that's top to bottom. One thing that stood out to me early on, and again, was this notion that our growth and development for our associates here at Capital One is so important that we're not just gonna let that be something we lump into how we evaluate performance. We're gonna separate them and have targeted conversation about how we are gonna invest in our associates, how we help grow and develop them. And it's offered me tons of opportunity to meet people and build relationships with people as sponsors, mentors, and just people in your corner network, relationship building that have just offered me so much insight into how to navigate Capital One, how to think about my growth here at Capital One, development opportunities, and that's different from, quite frankly, what I've seen anywhere else. And so I think it's unique in that there's a single-minded focus on our growth and development, but everybody around the company leans into that. I mentor certain people. I'm part of a mentorship program called One Circle here at Capital One. Also an advisor for that. And so all really just to say that there's been plenty of resources. I now have a continuous sort of growing network of people here at Capital One that are supportive of my growth and development. And through my 3.5 years at this point, have been offered multitude of opportunities to lean into, one of which I'm sitting in today, the role I described for you.
Well, Bilal, you know that this episode is called Finding Joy, the Culture of Belonging. What is Capital One's culture of belonging? And as a Black leader who was born internationally, how has a culture of belonging supported you?
Yeah, Lula, thanks for asking that question. I think here Capital One is pretty simple. First and foremost, while we associate to employees, we're human beings. And as human beings, we have a need to feel safe, to feel included, valued, and accepted, and within the community that we belong. And we all belong to the Capital One community. So if we can find those things, we've achieved, a sense of belonging. In terms of my background and being sort of international, I think I have a bit of a unique makeup. I'm born and raised in Copenhagen, Denmark, so in Scandinavia. My father is from the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, and he's Muslim. So I grew up Muslim. I identify as Muslim. I'm a practicing Muslim. And so all of those things are important to me. I reflect myself in all of those things, and I identify as a black male. And I think what's been really rich for me here at Capital One has been the focus around creating or establishing communities that support all the differences of our associates, so that somebody like me who has sort of this puzzle piece of a makeup, I can add different pieces here and there and have parts of me where I can create community or belong to community based on those different pieces. And so once I'm able to sort of put all those pieces together, I can feel whole to some degree here at work. And so whether that's a vibrant sort of Muslim community, or it's a vibrant bit community which I partake quite a bit in, or if it's me reaching out to a few folks that identify with my Scandinavian heritage, then so be it. But I think as somebody who has sort of who comes from an international background, having that those communities, it's so easy to get in touch with people and share your story and hear other stories that you feel like you can reflect yourself in. That just helps me be a better version of myself here at work. Right? It's still a professional setting. I'm not going to be my entire self. There's work me, but there's home me. My kids see a different version of myself. My wife does as well. But I can be a better version of myself here at work because of those elements being added into the mix here at Capital One. So it's something that I absolutely appreciate and I take full advantage of.
For sure. I mean, you talk about the culture of belonging as an individual, but as a leader, how do you help foster a culture of belonging for your entire team?
It's something that's so near dear to me, Lula. I think that the first piece of it is, and I talk to my leadership team about this a ton. Yeah. Authenticity is everything to me. And that was, going back to my earlier story about like making sure that I felt like I was a kick butt engineer, if you will, before I got into leadership. It was one of those things where I didn't want to feel like I was faking the funk. And so authenticity to me is everything about how you show up as a leader. And through, I think, your authentic self, you can connect with people in a different way. And once you do that, you build a level of trust with your associates and your colleagues, that without that level of authenticity or showing up authentic, you're probably not going to be able to build. And so in order to foster this culture of belonging, building trust to me is key. You do that, it's facilitated through you being your authentic self, showing up, and obviously caring. We have to care. If you're being authentic and you don't care, it's not going to go across well. But that's something, table stakes, I think, here at Capital One in terms of what we expect from our leaders. And so through the trust, it opens up conversation that safe and and in an environment where they feel valued for their different opinions. And so they feel that sense of belonging. That's what I wholeheartedly believe that I pay attention to, and I try to facilitate. But again, to recap, building trust through authenticity, and then showing up.
Absolutely. I mean, building trust and authenticity is so critical in the work that we do. You talked a little bit about the different communities that you belong to, being a part of the Muslim community, the Scandinavian community, the Caribbean community. What different communities are you a part of at Capital One, and how have they impacted your experience?
Yeah, so I'm part of BIT community, Blacks in Tech. I'm part of Voices as well. I lead a pillar within the Blacks in Tech under Maureen Jules Perez, focused on retention of our BIT associates. So heavily involved there. It's, I show up to those meetings, engagements, sessions, whatever it is, and I'm a different version of myself. It's a level of safety within that family group, if you will, where I could show up different sides of myself. That again, get back to sort of the table stakes work. I've had that release. I have the ability to show up differently, and so it helps me there. Outside of that, I engage with certain I want to say arrangement sessions in the Asian origins BRG, mostly because of the things that are focused around the Muslim high times of the year, like Ramadan, Eid, etc. That obviously is a reflection of my faith as well. And so I volunteer for a lot of those events, and engage with them. And the One Circle, mentorship program that we put together actually came from a grassroots core group of people coming from the Origins BRG as part of a few conversations, et cetera, sessions we had amongst the Muslim associates. And now it was the building blocks of something that's now being supported across not only that community, BRG community, but also some lines of businesses are getting involved, and hopefully it expands even further than that. But that's where I'm mostly engaged. I also engage in women in tech, Hispanics in tech, wherever there is opportunity for me to engage and show up for any BRG. I'm gonna try to make time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, showing up for communities that you belong to, and also supporting communities that you don't belong to, especially in the workplace, is so critical, right? So thank you for sharing that. I mean, this has been such an amazing conversation. Is there anything that we didn't discuss today that you'd like to share about Capital One's culture of belonging and how it resonates to you?
I think that the one thing just to reinforce for me is, at Capital One, it's never felt like a checkbox. It's always felt like a top to bottom. If you're passionate about this, you can make a change. You can make a difference. You can have an impact, and it's supported all the way through the organization. And if there's anything that Capital One has proven to me, and the amazing people here at Capital One, is that regardless of where you sit in the organization, you can get involved if you have the passion and the drive, and you can make a difference.
Passion and drive equals making a difference. I'm definitely going to remember that. Thank you so much for joining us, Bilal. This has been such an insightful conversation.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you to Capital One for bringing us this incredible and important discussion. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.